During the pandemic, I almost had a panic attack when I went to the grocery store and saw the shelf of kale and spinach practically empty. Now, for someone who has kale and spinach on a daily basis, this is a major catastrophe. So I had to come up with a way that I could store fresh leafy greens in a way that I could have them on a daily basis, and without trying to have a self-sustaining garden in my backyard. So out of necessity, I came up with this way of creating ice cubes out of the leafy greens that I could then store in my freezer, and then I could use them in my smoothies. Now, I wouldn't be able to make like a full salad out of them, but that's okay. At least I would still get the health benefits and my digestive system would stay regular, if you know what I mean. Now, I have a hard time believing anyone who says they love the flavor of kale and spinach because honestly, it smells like something that just came out of the lawnmower when my son mows the lawn. I like to buy this 1 pound box of baby spinach and kale mix, and I can buy this for about $5 or $6. I start by adding just under 2 cups of water to my blender. Now you could also use like coconut water if you wanted to, just to give it a little more flavor. And then I take and add about half of the box of spinach to the blender. So if I try adding the entire box of spinach, it doesn't quite fit, and then they start overflowing. So about half of the container will fit in the blender at once. And then just simply put on the lid, use the tamper to help push it down, and then I just put it at a low speed. All right, so now that half the container has blended down, there's enough room in the blender that I can add the rest of the kale and spinach. Now you do want to be careful because this liquid kale spinach is practically paint. I mean, you could honestly paint like a Bob Ross landscape with the food coloring that is in this liquid. So you do want to be careful as you're moving stuff around. I'm just going to turn it upside down. Set that in the sink for a second, and then now I can add the rest of the kale and the spinach. Seriously, like who was it that discovered kale and spinach and was able to get past the smell even to try tasting it for the first time? And that was probably a while before they had the scientific capability to determine how nutritious it is. All right, bring that lid back over. And I'll just turn it back on. That only took a few seconds just at the lowest speed to be able to blend it into a liquid. Take that lid off. Again, being careful not to spill. And it's probably better if you don't smell. Just know that what you have here is like liquid gold when it comes to nutrition. I went to a thrift store and just picked up a couple of ice cube trays that are now my dedicated spinach and kale trays. And they are going to have a little bit of staining to them, which is why they are now the kale and spinach trays. And so I just take then the liquid mixture and just start pouring it into the trays. And again, as you're pouring this delicious looking mix, just remind yourself of how much nutrition is in there and that you now have that nutrition on a daily basis, no matter what happens. That you will always be able to have some fresh leafy greens as part of your diet. Just use like a spoon or something else, just kind of help spread it around. So you have some even ice cubes. And now these are ready to go into the freezer. So through the magic of television, I have a tray that's already frozen of the ice cubes. Now I like to store these in my freezer inside these silicone bags. And you can see that this bag is now my dedicated kale and spinach bag because there is going to be some staining because again, that food coloring from nature is really strong. Now getting all these ice cubes into this bag is actually more complicated than it seems. And again, trying to keep it as clean as possible so that I don't end up with spinach little frozen pieces on my floor or on the counter. I find it works best to first crack the ice cubes into just a bigger bowl that can catch all of them at the same time. There we go. And now getting all from the bowl into the bag is so much easier. So it's just a matter of sliding them all in. And then now I've got this natural, fresh, leafy greens that are stored in my freezer that I can have anytime in my smoothies. And the ice cubes will stay good for several months here in this bag inside my freezer before I'll start to see any freezer burn. But honestly, I use them up within about 2 weeks. I also will vacuum seal them as well, which will give me 6 months to a year's worth of storage. It brings me a ton of peace of mind knowing that I have leafy greens stored in a way that I can have them at any time. Okay, yeah, maybe it is a little weird. I get really excited about kale and spinach ice cubes. Doesn't exactly smell like chocolate or anything, but it definitely keeps the pipes flowing. And the kids stay out of it.